talking shit, tearing it, imperative. Then I'm killing this mic no matter where I live. These derelict rappers acting the fool, this embarrassing is flagrant. That's the nature of this entertainment, and we can't even change it. Guilty before arraignment, now the system tainted. But when we speak, they all laugh at us. And y'all wonder why I'm lacking trust. Trying to fight a giant with attorneys that can back them up. That's church versus science, both sides start acting up. I'm late on my assignment, hopping up a mile high, climbing, obviously never silent. New alignment, I'm defiant, cannot describe it. Used to describe it as a young graffiti artist. Before the beard, I always got carded. Hit every bar, even though my bar has been the hardest. The scars on my face said I ain't always been the smartest, but I'll show you where my heart is. I said I'll show you where my heart is. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, I can show you where my...
The type of guy that would ride with a breeze. I'm higher than most people, I'm cold and icicle freeze. I'm liking to Mike Tyson, I'm a bison, a beast. I'm high like Jamaica, like right by the beach. My pops is from a spot where they're fighting for peace. 8 years old, out there watching people fight in the streets. All these sirens only make the violence increase. Yeah, we're still not loving police. It's that bright young American, nice, dumb, arrogant. Tight on a mic, but he might need a therapist. Heart full of kerosene, head full of fairy tales. Said that you're my homie, you don't know me, but I know you very well. Roll back on some West Coast shit. This whole track is wetter than your dress code kiss. About to hit the track, running on some retro fit. I guess I'll lit, I guess I'll bitch, now let's go.
Show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve, even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody...
Back!
What up? Everybody's here.
Little sports nonsense and whiskey Tuesday. Hanging with the fellas. How's everybody doing? Robert, Finky, cheers, my guy.
What up?
Back from San Antonio, boys. I'm back.
Yeah, glad you all decided to be here again. You know, instead of just leaving me hanging. See how it is. It's fine.
I blame Caleb for that.
But... Whatever.
Nothing new there.
I mean, I was in another state. I didn't really have great Wi-Fi, so, you know.
You're in San Antonio one, like, never mind.
I was at the Spurs game, okay? I was at the Spurs game.
There it is. Okay, I was just going to say, don't make me pull a David Beckham on you, Pinky.
I mean, I was having a good time, okay?
There you go.
I mean, that's all you gotta say.
I'm still gonna give you shit about it, but it's all right.
It's a good work trip, boys. A good work trip. Did miss you guys though. I missed you.
Yeah, I miss you guys.
Kind of weird.
I had a good nerd conversation, so that was fun. Doesn't happen very often. I got to take over, so that was great.
Anytime we don't do the podcast, like the week doesn't feel right. And even though it's at the beginning of the week, it just like if we don't do it, it just doesn't feel right. I don't know if Caleb feels the same way, but
I haven't taken any time off recently, so you know.
Yes, Robert, you've been holding it down. That's what you do. So proud of you.
Okay?
Proud of you.
I do my hardest, okay?
You are 3 years behind us, but you know, okay.
It's all good. Hey, if
I mean,
I hadn't been
he comes
here,
in when everything's
no
like, you know, running smoothly and already figured out.
We're not in a garage when it's 20 degrees and freezing, you know, whatever.
Video.
I'm here
audio.
now. So what?
All right. Let's talk about last week's episode just a moment. Caleb, did you happen to throw that on and listen?
Bits and pieces. I had the opportunity.
So, some good stuff. You and Cam definitely hold it down. Cam, if you ever listen, I don't know if you do, but if you do, thanks for jumping on and supporting.
Appreciate it, good sir.
Had some good Batman talk, some good Lord of the Rings talk. It was good stuff. I will say, I didn't realize it was like 2.5 hours. Which is a good thing.
There was still so much nerd to go over.
I mean,
You
I was
act
listening
like
to it
the
and
two
just
and a
didn't
half
realize.
hours is a new mark or something. Like that's not the common length of time that we.
No,
I was about to
I
say
mean-
that's average. That's normal.
and we
But
still
for-
cut ourselves off every time. So
But we hit a lot of different stuff for that 2.5 hours. The fact that it was just like Star Wars, Batman, Lord of the Rings, and that was like
like that's not enough conversation points. What?
That's what I'm saying.
What is wrong?
I'm
with
just
you,
saying
Pinky?
I'm just saying it was good, and I didn't notice how long of time it was taking. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
It's like when you go see a really good movie and you walk out and you're like, oh shit, that was 3 hours. It's like that, that's what I'm saying. You did a good job, Robert.
Appreciate that. Means a lot.
Let's see. I did get to finish Rings of Power this week since again I was traveling and everything, had some time to finish everything up. Season 2's really good. Season 2's
Dude,
really
it's
good.
awesome.
I loved it. And I would tell you, suffered through season 1. Season 1's not as good in my opinion. But after I rewatched it and then watched season 2 is really good. You got to get on that, Caleb.
Yeah, working
It's
on
got
it.
the stuff.
I know there's a lot of stuff there's just so much media to consume.
There's a lot of good media to consume.
There is, but it's tough. And then there's some media you can only consume by yourself. Your wife doesn't want to watch it. So it's like this, you got to find the time to fit it in. I know you don't have those problems, Robert, but some of us guys do have those problems where,
Hey,
if I'm trying to watch Lord of the Rings, my wife's like, I'm out. Like, no, we're not watching that. So
listen, I mean, I still have something I still have a backlog of shows to get through. Don't even get me started. My big conquest right now is the Castlevania series on Netflix.
okay, yep, the animated series.
Doing all those seasons and then the follow up to that too, because I think it's like Castlevania Nocturnal or
the
something.
internet right now. Check
So,
your modem or router connection.
Gotta do that. What's up, Lola? How's it, Caleb? How's Lola doing? She's still trying to connect you to the world.
Dude, TV won't connect to the internet, which means I can't watch any of the games right now. It's driving me nuts.
Nope. You got to be with us. You got to be here now.
You're present.
Be present in the moment.
Yeah, I'm present. I'm listening. I still want to see the games while we're talking.
What else? A Gladiator. With no spoiler free. It was entertaining. Pinky and I talked about this today at work. There's it's a good sequel. That's really it. It's
Look,
entertaining, but
let's just okay, Robert. I know where you're coming from. You've got this movie that's one, I think you mentioned at work. It's one of the top 100 movies. If you put a list together,
it won Best Picture.
of the movies people have to watch.
Yes,
I do think Gladiator would be on that list. If you made a list of 100 movies, you got to watch this movie. I got no problem saying Gladiator should be on that list. The cinematography, the story, Russell Crowe was awesome. Joaquin Phoenix is awesome in that
One of the
movie as
greatest
well.
one-liners and monologues in movie history.
Right.
straight up.
So
Yeah, it's
so-
34 on IMDb's list of 250 movies.
It's so hard to replicate that and make a movie that's and again, when you go into it, you're expecting this great movie, and I didn't go into it expecting that. I just went, will I be entertained? And yes, I was entertained. There's some nitpicky stuff. You can nitpick it with it. But overall, it was just an enjoyable movie. I love Denzel Washington. His character was kind of quirky.
That was the best part of the whole movie.
And, that was enjoyable. I thought, they did a decent job with the new Gladiator and kind of really having that aura of Russell Crowe. I thought he did a pretty good job of that as well. So it's just, it's the story / the cinematography was not as on point as it was in the original. They didn't kind of slow it down for those moments like they did in the original. And I think that I think some of that they probably could have added 30 minutes to it. That's right, Shandy. That's right. We'll get there when we get to the Rookie of the Year conversation, a little ahead of us. But yeah, Gladiator 2 is worth it. It's Pinky approved. Go check it out. I watched it in the Dolby. Totally worth it.
That's how I watched it too. No, again, great movie, but I really wish it wasn't attached to already a fantastic movie. So I just wish it was just a plain Gladiator movie. Didn't need to be a sequel.
That and I can agree with you there. And I think there's some things that you could change and make it its own separate storyline that would be all right. But I still thought it was a good movie. As a sequel goes, it was still. No, it's still a good sequel.
No.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine as a sequel. Unfortunately, a lot of people want the sequel to be better than the original, and it was not that.
I want it to be as good as the original.
I just want a sequel to continue with the story that it was already told, not create a brand new story and then call itself a sequel.
Well, this does do that.
I've heard otherwise. I haven't seen it, so I can't speak too much, but I've heard otherwise.
No, it completely connects to the original story. It's a continuation. Now there's 16 years of time that they don't give us any information about. So it kind of drops you in and you don't get any of the back info on what's happened during that 16-year period. And that's one of the issues.
If the sequel doesn't have anything to do with the original characters in the first movie, is it really a sequel?
It absolutely does.
That's the problem, is that you get into it and you're like, wait a minute, what did happen? And yeah.
The female character that was the sister of Joaquin Phoenix's character is in the movie. She's playing the same character. So it is directly connected to the original.
All right, move on.
Well, you haven't seen it yet, so you can't comment. So.
Yep. But we'll see whenever he gets to it. We'll come back to it and we can debate it again.
I did watch Cross on Prime.
Have not got to that. So
fantastic show.
I'll take your recommendation for that.
If you like serial killer stuff, that was a good show. You'll like that. All right. Let's get the sports rolling. I think we got a lot of sports to talk tonight, so we don't want to take too long.
Go ahead and take it away.
Quick shout out to Christian Pulisic, the youngest U.S. national team player to reach 50 career points, if you will, as far as goals and assists combined that he's accounted for. Captain America's balling out. He's got more goals right now in the Serie A than Eden Hazard. Dude needs to start getting some recognition on the world stage. So shout out to Christian Pulisic for just balling right now. Quick hockey note.
Hold on. I've got a soccer fact that I think would be great to share.
Okay.
Lay it on us, Pinky.
How about those Colorado Springs Switchbacks?
I mean, congrats to them, but
they won the championship.
They won the championship. That's awesome. No, give them credit, bro.
When do we talk about minor leagues?
That's still an accomplishment for our hometown, man.
And they were 0-5 to start.
So we're talking minor leagues just because it's the hometown team?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's great. Support the hometown, man.
Right.
We're not talking about it any other time.
Hey, this is something that has been new to Colorado Springs. Like, they've been doing good. They've got a championship. That's awesome. Like, good for them. I'm proud. Like, I got to go to one of the playoff games. It was great. The Switchbacks are fun to see. It's a great time. I loved it.
The stadium's real cool. It's real personal and small, and it's a good time, man.
After the Sky Sox have been taken away, the Switchbacks have been the next best thing. Like, I don't want to go see a Vibes game. I've enjoyed going to Switchbacks games more.
I think I enjoyed the Switchbacks game more than I've ever enjoyed a Vibes game.
Absolutely.
Except for, I think the last time I really liked the Vibes game, they were the
Vibes
Sky
is
Sox.
minor league rookie ball for those that aren't aware.
Right. Well, the Sky Sox used to be the AAA affiliate of the Indians.
No,
the
Rockies. Before the Rockies existed. You're going before the Rockies existed.
Right. And that's when they were really cool because there were a lot of the big Indians players came through here, and I got to see them before they got big in the big leagues.
Same thing happened with the Rockies.
Yeah, I didn't go as much.
Todd Helton started at the Sky Sox.
Yeah, F the Rockies, so we don't even talk about that. That doesn't even exist anymore.
Neither do the Indians.
Well, the Indians
No, they're
still
the
exist
Guardians.
in my heart. They still exist in my heart.
$1 in the bucket, Pinky.
Just like the Washington Redskins.
The Redskins will always have a place in my heart.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to say congrats to the Switchbacks. All right. I thought that was cool.
Pinky. No, that's awesome.
And it's soccer. And I went to a game, and you guys always say, "Hey, you should get involved in soccer," and I do, and then you shit on it, Caleb. That's just messed up.
Hey, fuck you. I'm supporting
not shitting on it. I'm not shitting on it. I'm just saying, all things equal, man. We don't talk about any other minor league sport or team.
I mean, we don't have any other really minor league sports here besides the Switchbacks, really.
But this is exciting to talk about. They won a championship. There's some big things that come with that. Like, it's awesome.
If we lived closer in Denver, I bet we'd go to a couple of the minor league hockey games. The Eagles are up there. I'd go see an Eagles game, but they're really far away from where we're at. So, all right, continue, Caleb.
Shout out to Alexander Ovechkin. I apologize to you, good sir. You got bit by the curse. Had I known better, I would have kept my mouth shut. But excited and wanted to discuss. But before he went down with the injury, a cool stat that I had found that I was bummed that we will not see now, most likely. Hopefully we can if he comes back. But he was on a heater, and now coming back, it's hard to get back on that heater. So I don't know if this will still be a practical accomplishment or not. But he was on pace to beat Wayne Gretzky's record, and not just beat it, but do so in fewer games. Gretzky did it in 894 games. Ovechkin was on pace to do it in 866. No longer most likely the case. So we'll see what happens. I'm sorry, he was at 866 with the opportunity to break Gretzky's record and do it in fewer games.
Yeah, he won't hit that. He won't hit that before the. He'll hit that next year.
Most likely, he's going to have to do it next year. Now, depending on how long he's out, how many games are left, we'll see. But bummer that he got hurt, and we may not get to witness that history in this season. So we'll have to wait and see what happens and how he recovers from said injury. The other quick hockey news I wanted to throw out there, because it's also history being made, and it's kind of gone a little bit under the radar comparatively to Ovi chasing the goals record. But Sidney Crosby is now the only other player in NHL history besides Wayne Gretzky to have 600 goals, 1,600 points, 3 Stanley Cups, and 2 Conn Smythes. So if you haven't been following hockey, that's a bummer, because you have missed watching 2 of the greatest players of all time play, and they both played in the same generation against each other on a regular basis in Ovi and Sidney Crosby. Side note on Sidney Crosby, as Avs fans go, there has been an underlying current of hope that somehow Sidney Crosby ends up on the Avs at some point via a trade to play with his buddy Nathan McKinnon. And there is starting to be that same undercurrent within the national media. So while it's not something that gets thrown around very often out in the public, it is something floating around kind of in the underbelly of hockey, where people would like to see him moved and move to the Avs to finish his career and play with McKinnon.
That'd be cool.
Yes, Avs fans, yes, homers, but just as a hockey fan from an objective point of view, to see those 2 team up and have Crosby possibly get one last ride to go after another Stanley Cup, he'd have a better opportunity to do it with the Avs than he would with the current Pittsburgh Penguins. So, if that happens, it would be a super cool storyline within the NHL circles. Something to keep an eye on as the trade deadline approaches. Once you start getting the national media talking, even if it's under their breath, things could be more likely than if it's just, a bunch of home fans wishing and hoping. So see what happens.
For all the people out there that are like, nah, I'm not into hockey, whatever. I've been out there. Anytime I'm having a sports conversation with someone, we talk hockey. I always tell them, if you have never been to a hockey game,
a lot of fun.
You probably won't have that same passion for hockey. I was like, but I guarantee you, if you go to a game, your whole outlook will change.
That goes for any level of hockey. College,
so
minors, pros. If you see one live, the speed of the game is so much different live than what you see on TV.
Yeah. On TV, I feel like playoff hockey, when the intensity's ramped up, you get that feeling a little bit more on TV, but I don't think anything can really replace the, going to the game. So get out to a game, see what happens, and I'd almost guarantee 95% of the time you'd be like, man, that was really cool. Like I can't see someone going to a hockey game, leaving and being like, yeah, I still don't get it. Like I was blown away by my wife was blown away the first game she went to. She was just like, this is freaking crazy. Now, again, she had like some of the best seats you can get right there at glass, right behind the goalie. So she was in it. But yeah, you got to do that. And I think that will, again, one person at a time. We got to get more hockey fans out there. It's a great sport to watch. It's really fun. It's a long season, just like basketball, just like baseball. So it does change once you get to the playoffs, but just your everyday normal game is really fun and exciting. So
I love all sports, and there's some that I like more than others, but it's hard for me to say there's a better live sporting event than a hockey game. There's not really any breaks. There's always action. There's always movement. Football, basketball, you get the long TV timeouts that kind of draw things on. Penalties can slow the game down. You don't get those same feelings in hockey. So it is a very different experience from all the other major sports.
Absolutely. Anything else for now?
No, that's all I got for hockey right now. Wanted to just shout out those two legends of the game and kind of what they were working towards and what could be happening.
Oh, bloody Rens. Hockey mid. Oof, man.
I mean, I guess that's what he considers mid and what he has above it.
I mean, I'm going to a hockey game. I've been to quite a few basketball games recently. I'll take a live hockey game over a basketball game any day.
Regular season.
Sure.
Yeah, regular season. So, all right, what else you got, Caleb?
College basketball is off to a hot start. I love what I'm seeing right now. Obviously, there's a lot of the preseason tournaments going on. Big one every year, Maui Invitational. UConn just got upset twice, 2 days in a row. Yesterday, I believe they got hosed. It was a terrible call with the over the back. I'm not sure how that ended up being a call. They lose. They come out today. They lose again, almost in identical fashion. Last second shot opportunity to win or tie. Couldn't hang on. So UConn is struggling a little bit to begin the season. And I say a little bit because it's not like they got blown out. They lost both games by a point or 2 points last night and 1 point today. So they should be fine long term, but undefeated season, things of that nature are not going to be above it. Tonight, the reason I'm trying to get the TV to work and it won't is because Kansas and Duke are going off right now. Cooper Flagg, Hunter Dickinson, big time game. I will continue to say it, and I don't care how repetitive and boring it gets. Cooper Flagg is legit. Legit. He is the best player in the country right now as a 17-year-old freshman.
That's not true.
It's absolutely true.
It's not true.
Okay, who's better than him right now?
I mean, there's tons of players that are better than him right now. His potential to be better is off the charts, but he's not the best player right now.
Yes, he is the best player in the country right now.
He is not.
You can't even tell me a name.
Hunter Dickinson's playing better than Cooper Flagg right now.
He's absolutely not.
Absolutely.
How do you figure?
Pull up the stats, man.
Pull them up.
Cooper Flag is not playing the best.
You don't even know the stats, and you're telling me to pull up the stats. Pull them up.
He is the number one prospect right now for the NBA draft.
Prospect. So. But that doesn't mean he's the best player. The person
he is the best player in the country right now. I have no problem saying it. None whatsoever. I don't even have to think twice about it. You want to talk about stats? Him and Dickinson are averaging basically the same amount of points. Dickinson's averaging, I think, 3 or 4 more rebounds. They're averaging basically the same amount of blocks. Cooper Flag is higher or equal field goal percentage, but he shoots better from the field all over as a perspective. He's not just an inside game. He's an inside-outside game. He has more assists per game.
He got support.
Yeah, it's hard to pull the information because everything says the top prospects. Yes, he's the top prospect. That's absolutely true.
Dude.
But he's not the best player as it stands today.
You cannot give me even one name that's better than him. And Dickinson is definitely not better than him. Dickinson is a low post player, and that's all he does. That's it.
Well, right now
Flag plays all over the floor.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna support you on that, Caleb. Sorry, buddy. I bet there's some shooting guard out there that's better right now than Cooper Flag.
Oh, where is it?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I can't grab it right now. It's going to take me a second. But yeah, he's the best player in the country.
Yeah,
no different than any other freshman that's come along that's been the top prospect that was the best player in the country. It's bloody Zens, by all means. Throw out a name who's better than him.
I mean, he's not even in the top 10 in points, assists, rebounds, blocks, steals, 3-pointers. Like he's not anywhere near anybody.
So because he's not the top leader in stats, that means he's not the best player in the country?
He's the best prospect. He's not the best player.
Pinky, who's the best player in college football right now?
The best player in college football?
Who would you say is going to win the Heisman?
Travis Hunter.
Travis Hunter doesn't lead the nation in any stats. None. Not a one.
He's top 5 in most of the receiver stats.
No, he's not. He's not even top 5 in the Big 12, except for touchdowns and catches.
Which are 2 of the biggest receiver stats you can get. The only other one is yards.
Yeah, but that's in the Big 12. He's not that in the nation.
We'll move on, man. Like you're semantics again.
That's not semantics.
He's not even the top in any categories at all in the nation, and yet he's the best player? Are you fucking kidding me? Come on, man.
No, you don't have to lead in stats to be the best player in the nation.
You should lead in something.
Why? He's got a bunch of crazy good teammates that he lets eat too.
Oh, he's got 2 points tonight. Awesome. That's a great half for the best player in the fucking nation.
You know who the NBA players didn't talk about when they played against Team USA and the top prospects in the country leading up to the Olympics?
Again, we're not talking prospects.
Everybody but Cooper
We're not
Flag.
talking prospects. We're talking the
I'm not
best
talking
player.
prospect. He played against the best players in the NBA, and they said he was ready for the NBA now.
Look.
Right now.
Cody Williams last year for Colorado was one of the best prospects in the nation, and he was fucking awful. And most of his stats were awful. Now, again, prospect versus best player in the nation. Those are 2 different things.
Oh, my God.
Your Randy Shannon last year was a better player than Cody Williams.
What did that have to do with Cooper Flag?
Cooper Flag is the best prospect and will probably be the best player out of this draft. But as it stands today, he is not the best player in the nation.
He is the only one from that camp that Team USA all unanimously said is NBA ready right now. How does that not say best player? That's not prospect. The dude went toe-to-toe with the best players in the NBA, and they all said he's good.
I mean,
you don't have to lead in stats to be the best player.
You got to lead in something to be the best player in the nation.
Oh, man. Okay.
I'm not gonna. I can't speak to this.
He's tied for 93rd in the nation in points. He's tied for 51st in the nation in rebounds. He's in the top 150 for assists, and he's in the top 150 for field goal percentage. Pretty good for a freshman. But that doesn't tell me best in the nation.
He steps on the court this year, and no matter who he plays, he is the best player on the court.
Okay.
No different than Travis Hunter. No different than Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter does not lead the nation in any category. Not one. But he is the best player on the field every time he steps on it.
Move along.
Travis Hunter, Heisman winner. He is up for every award except for the Jim Thorpe Award, which is the nation's best cornerback.
And that's probably because he's up for the Heisman. And people were wanting to hate on him.
He's up for the best defensive back award. He is not up for the best cornerback award. Little odd, but so be it. I liken him, and I've said this a few times, he is a Trayvon Diggs type of cornerback. He may not be the best pure cover corner, but if you make a mistake, he is guaranteed to make you pay for said mistake.
Because he's got good ball skills.
And
he's got his hands are like a vacuum.
He's got the best hands in college football, in my opinion. That's why I believe he's one of the best receivers in college football. Regardless of what the numbers say, he is one of the best receivers, which is why he was up for the Biletnikoff Award, which is the best receiver in the country. Now, I will say a little bit surprised with who was on that award. It is Hunter. I always say this wrong. Titoriora.
The guy from Arizona?
The guy from Arizona, and Nash from San Jose State.
Yes.
Who is a converted quarterback and leading the nation in a bunch of categories. Dude's crazy good.
I think he leads the nation in yards.
So those three are up for the award. I am surprised that Smith out of OSU was not up for the award as well. What that dude's doing as a freshman, I don't care if he's a freshman. He is definitely one of the best receivers in the country.
You know they don't like to give freshman awards like that, though.
Yeah, I don't really care what your status is or what year you are. If you're the best, you're the best. So deal with it. But Travis Hunter is here. I've got the list real quick. Travis Hunter is up for the Maxwell Award for Best All-Around Player. He is up for the Biletnikoff Award, which is the Best Wide Receiver. The Bednarik Award, which is Best Defensive Player. The Hornig Award, which is Most Versatile Player. And the Walter Camp Award, which is the Most Outstanding Player. And the Heisman. So I still don't understand the hate and the continuous amount of people saying he's not one of the top receivers and top cornerbacks in the nation.
But that's the Deion hate. If you hate Deion, you're hating on Travis Hunter, and you're not really paying attention and respecting what Travis Hunter is doing. If Travis Hunter was not playing on the Buffs right now, we wouldn't be talking about the Buffs. I think Shedeur is great, but if he didn't have Travis Hunter on the team, it would not be looking great. I don't think they'd be bowl eligible if Travis Hunter wasn't on the team.
That's possible for sure. But again, I'll keep saying it about Shedeur. You put him on one of the top teams in the Big Ten or the SEC, and there's no question he's going to the Heisman ceremony, and there's no question that he's the best quarterback in the league.
I would agree.
So the fact that he doesn't get more love is a little ridiculous. And the way the draft's starting to shape up, it looks like there's a very high probability that they'll go 1 and 2.
Yeah, there's just no way Shedeur's not the number 1 quarterback this year from the way that the guys have played.
The amount of people within social media circles that still have guys like Jackson Dart and Quinn Ewers and what's the other name I kept seeing thrown around?
It's Milroe, it's Ewers. It's
Milroe was the other one. They keep putting Shedeur below those guys. And I still see people putting, this is crazy, but they still have Carson Beck above him. So it's just hate. It's just hate for hate's sake.
I'm not sure Carson Beck gets drafted at this point. He's played that bad this year. I don't know if he's going to get drafted, man.
I would be surprised if he's not drafted.
I mean,
somewhere in the later rounds.
Can you take it? I mean, if you take a 6th or 7th round flyer on him, sure, like you're just, throwing the dice. But I wouldn't be shocked.
I said at the beginning of the year he's a late round draft pick. I also said at the beginning of the year I see Alabama having 3 losses, and then they beat Georgia, and I had to eat some crow and go back on that, and I wish I never had because they're right where I expected them to be.
they ended up right where you thought they'd be. Oh, have faith in yourself, Caleb. Have faith.
Hey, man, sometimes I like to just judge a cover by its weekly edition. You know what I mean? And when they beat Georgia, that was a pretty big, impressive win.
I mean, and they didn't just beat; they whooped up on Georgia.
They did. They most definitely did. So, sometimes I like to do the weekly edition. Sometimes I go with the novel. It just kind of depends on how I'm feeling. So,
yeah, Travis Hunter right now. I think there's only 1 game left, right?
1 regular season, and then you'll have conference championships.
And CU at the moment is not scheduled to play in the conference championship, right?
No, they're lost. Put them out.
Yeah, I mean they would.
It would be. I feel like I remember hearing something about how there's this 1% chance of them being able to get back in, but it's like the amount of things that have to happen are so highly unlikely. It's just probably.
Well, I think with Arizona State at 9-2 or 8-2 or wherever they're at, and then BYU only losing 1 game, I feel like CU's lost 3, so they're out. There's no way for them to make it.
Yeah, there's. I don't think there's really a true path for them any longer.
Which
so they had destiny in their own hands. They
blew it against Rock Chalk.
Now, to Kansas's credit, I think it's 5 games this season where if they didn't have to play the last 2 minutes, they'd be 9-2.
Yeah. How about this? The last 3 weeks as a losing team, they have beat 3 straight ranked opponents.
Iowa State, BYU, and and look good doing it as well.
Oh, Colorado had played some decent defense, not great defense, but they played some decent defense the last 4 or 5 games. It's like they weren't even on the field.
They couldn't stop the run. They simply, I don't know why they weren't loading up on the box. Daniel isn't much of a thrower, a Kansas quarterback. Neal was running all over them. Daniel was running all over them. The defensive strategy was poor, unfortunately. And they had, it was something like 26 missed tackles on the night, which is an absurd number. So they lost the game themselves. And to Deion's credit, all those people who want to continuously bash him for being cocky, and you know how I feel about the cocky versus confidence thing, so I'm not going to go down that road right now. But he came out and said as much. He said, we started feeling our own stuff. We started smelling our own stuff. We started listening to everybody else instead of buckling down, and it cost us. And now it's a lesson learned, and we got to move on. So he owned it. It's not like he kept saying, we're coming. He didn't keep talking about how they're in or out. He owned the loss and said exactly what happened, and they'll move on. So Colorado's out. It looks like Arizona State is the hottest team in the Big 12 right now. They are the highest ranked Big 12 team.
Right.
So most are projecting them in the college football playoffs. So rundown of that right now. Top 12 teams: Oregon, OSU, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, Miami, Georgia, Tennessee, SMU, Iowa, Indiana, Boise State, Clemson. Clemson is the first, or Alabama would be 13. Clemson 12, Alabama 13. Clemson is now the first one out because the Big 12 winner would jump them in the standings because there isn't a Big 12 team ranked higher than 12. So whoever wins the Big 12 would jump Clemson right now, and Clemson and Alabama would be out as it stands right now. Based on the matchups coming up this week, the only serious movement that I would see happening are two. One is Ohio State if they lose to Michigan, which, while I don't think is likely, look, Nebraska almost beat Ohio State.
Yeah, but
Nebraska almost beat Ohio State.
So Nebraska's got a better quarterback than Michigan's got. So,
but you know what happens in rivalry games? Crazy things, crazier things, and unimaginable things. Think about the Iron Bowl. What was it, 2012? And that kick return from the missed field goal all the way back for 100 yards for Auburn to beat Alabama. Crazier things have happened. So Ohio State has not proven to be unbeatable this year. They did smoke Indiana this last weekend, but Indiana just looked flat. They did not look ready for the moment. That is not the same Indiana team we've watched all year. Now, you can say it's because they haven't played anybody, but they also had the largest margin of victory on the season going into that game. So it's not like Indiana was just barely getting by with these opponents that they were supposed to be. They were destroying everybody. So Ohio State is beatable. Do I think Michigan will do it? No, but it is something to keep an eye on. The other one is Notre Dame playing USC. Notre Dame hasn't had a great schedule this year. They haven't played a whole lot of competition, and they did lose to Northern Illinois. Granted, that was at the beginning of the season. Now we're later in the season. Notre Dame's looking a lot better. But again, still a rivalry game. USC isn't completely devoid of talent. So there is a possibility if Notre Dame doesn't show up that they could lose that game. Notre Dame loses that game, it would not surprise me to see them bumped because they're not playing in a conference championship and watching a team like Clemson or potentially Alabama jumping them. Do I think it's likely? No. Do I think even if Notre Dame loses, they're still in? Probably. But again, you want to talk about chaos, crazy things, potential for something to change. Those, I would say, are the two biggest situations where that could happen. The other interesting thing I think is out there is the Miami and SMU debate right now. Both in the ACC, will be playing in the conference championship most likely. But the one loss SMU has compared to the one loss Miami has, I'm still trying to figure out why Miami is ranked higher. And the only thing I can think of is brand. So that's going to be an interesting one as well on how, again, if you lose in the conference championship and you're already one of the top 12 teams, I don't think that should bump you from the top 12 if you lose the conference championship. I fully believe regardless of what your win record is after that game, if you were top 12 before the conference championship, win or lose, you should be top 12 after the conference championship. The only thing that should change is maybe where you are within that top 12. That's why I think Notre Dame could get bounced if they lose to USC because they're not going to have another chance to play and prove anything. So it makes things interesting. Outside of that, I don't see anybody outside of that top 12 jumping in outside of whoever wins the Big 12, simply because the highest ranked Power 5 champions all get in. The Pac-12 is not going to have one of those this year because they're a 2-team and you got to have at least 10 for a true championship. So that and the fact that, they're not really playing in the Big 12 as far as the Pac-12 as far as their schedule is concerned this year. So don't even count the Pac-12 right now. It's really the Power 4 instead of the Power 5. And then you've got Boise State coming out of the Mountain West. They're currently ranked number 11, and so they would be the next highest conference champion.
Bye, Pinky.
To get in. So we'll see what happens. We'll have one more ranking after this next week, and then we'll move forward from there. But at this point in time, I think it's pretty solidified who's in and out. I don't see a whole lot of potential for things to move. Of course, you didn't think Ole Miss was going to lose last weekend, and you didn't think Alabama was going to lose last weekend. Both of them were in the top 12 last week. They're both outside of the top 12 this week. So crazier things have happened, and I am loving where this 12-team playoff format is already heading, and we haven't even gotten to the playoff itself yet. So can't like this enough. I will say the only thing I would love to see change is the fact that they just don't do preseason rankings anymore. Nobody's got to rank until the first college playoff rankings come out. First week in October, release the first rankings, and that sets the stage for where everybody's at the rest of the season. There's far too often teams get ranked preseason way higher than they should be, and that carries them all the way through the rest of the year to a position where they probably shouldn't have been in the first place. Kalen DeBoer coming out and saying everybody in the country knows we're the best 3-loss team in the country, like that should mean that they're in the playoffs.
That smells like desperation.
Absolutely. Absolutely it does. I mean, you got spanked. You didn't just lose. You got spanked by Oklahoma, who many consider not a good team this year. You lost to Vanderbilt. Many consider not a great team this year. So 2 of your 3 losses are bad losses. You want to say all the things about Indiana's strength of schedule, and that's fine, but their only loss is to the number 2 ranked team in the country, not an unranked team. So I think there's some explaining to do down in Tuscaloosa, and it's going to be a long off season for them Roll Tide fans.
I love it. F the Tide. F them. You've had your moment. Now it's time for somebody else's. Let's go.
Absolutely.
That's my opinion.
So there's that. Last comment on the Heisman. Look, Genty is a phenomenal football player, but I will continue to say it. The only way he wins the Heisman in my mind this year is if he breaks Barry Sanders' record. And he's not going to do it in the same amount of games Barry Sanders did. So even if he does do it, at least for me, it loses a little bit of its luster. And secondly, and it still blows my mind that people don't think of Hunter this way, but he is one of the best. I fully believe he has an argument to be in the conversation for one of the best wide receivers and one of the best defensive backs in the country. We have never in the history of the game seen anything like this, ever. And people want to keep throwing out Charles Woodson. Charles Woodson didn't do anything close to what Travis Hunter is doing. He played a few snaps on offense here and there. They had specific packages for him that they would bring him in for. He was a nice punt returner and kick returner, and he was a great DB. He was not in the conversation for one of the best at multiple positions in the country. Travis Hunter is. I will also say this. While I believe Genty is the best running back in the country, to say that there's not a conversation that can't be had that he's not the best is absurd to me. There are a handful of other running backs in the country right now who you could make arguments for are the best running back in the country, but they play in tougher conferences with, if we're being honest, better defenses and better talent on the teams they're playing against. Johnson out of Iowa, I think both studs at Ohio State and Henderson and Judkins could have a possibility of having those titles if they weren't a two-headed monster in the backfield rather than just one dude getting all the touches. So to just say that Genty is the best running back in the country and it's not even close and there's no conversation there, I think that's wild as well. The last thing I'll say, and I just touched on this, it's wild that people want to talk about Genty and how he's head and shoulders above Hunter because Hunter doesn't play anybody in the Big 12. Who is Genty playing in the Mountain West? Like if we're talking skill for skill, schedule for schedule, you can't talk about Hunter and who he's not playing and then not do the same thing with Genty. So, let's apples to apples. Let's converse about the same point and counterpoint for everybody that we're going to talk about. Genty's phenomenal. He has every right to be there in New York on that Saturday. But I don't think it's close, and I think it is Travis Hunter for the win.
Yeah, just one more performance against whoever they're playing this weekend, and he should have it wrapped up. But they don't vote. They don't vote till after the conference games, right? So they're still. I mean,
The conference game. The votes are supposed to be in by the conference games. The
only one. Dylan Gabriel's playing the conference game.
Yeah, but conference games aren't considered as part of the Heisman vote.
But,
Votes are in before those games are played.
Yeah, who's the? There's 4 guys. It's Genty, it's Hunter, it's Gabriel. Who's the 4th guy?
I just know those 3 right now.
I saw it on.
Odds will tell you. The odds makers will tell you who the 4th will be. But Milroe probably not last weekend though. He jumped.
No, he wasn't in there. Fox has it just the 3. Genty.
Yeah.
Oh, Cam Ward. Cam Ward is in there.
You want to invite Cam Ward? I got no issues with that.
So it's according to Fox Sports, it's Travis Hunter minus 1,000.
Yeah.
Genty plus 900. Cam Ward plus 1,400. Dylan Gabriel plus 6,000.
And honestly, the only reason Dylan Gabriel's there is because he's on an undefeated team and he broke a couple records. But his numbers on the season are not Heisman worthy.
They're not amazing.
Cam Ward's numbers are a lot better than Dylan Gabriel's right now.
Right.
So, and if I'm being honest, Shedeur Sanders' numbers are not that much different than those 2. So, again, the fact that he's not even in the conversation or being talked about is a little wild to me. But, it is what it is.
I feel like if there was a 5th guy, he's the 5th guy invited to New York.
I would have said yes until they lost last week, unfortunately. And I would have dropped some of his chances.
Yeah, I'll be shocked. Well, there was some debate if Hunter and Shedeur will play the bowl game.
Dion came out and squashed that today real quick.
He did. Although I still feel like I wouldn't play. I wouldn't play the bowl game. I mean, the only thing that playing the bowl game does is help Dion. It doesn't help those boys. So,
I don't even know if Dion needs them to play, to be honest with you. The way he's recruiting and the way guys are coming. I mean, he got
well, yeah, their backup quarterback right now is not good.
He got Julian Lewis commit last week, and then Underwood committed to Michigan a couple days later. 2 huge recruit commits flipping.
Let's get Robert in the conversation real quick. Robert, did you hear about that at all? Underwood?
Did not.
He's a top quarterback recruit in the nation. He flipped his commitment to Michigan. I don't remember where he was before.
LSU.
Flipped it to Michigan. I believe it was $12 million NIL.
Oh my gosh.
$12 million.
Say that all you want. Look, it would be a big deciding factor, but I don't think it's as big as the other 2, which is a bunch of conversations with Brady. He's from Michigan. And look at what LSU is doing under Brian Kelly. Would you want to go play at LSU right now? I wouldn't.
I don't know if I'd want to go play for Michigan, though, without Harbaugh.
I'd rather stay home and play for Michigan where, let's be honest. If you've watched any of Michigan's games this year, if they had a quarterback, their record's a lot different. A whole lot different. They're
definitely better.
You're talking about most likely a 2-loss team rather than a 5-loss team. So you look at it in that scenario, I'd rather be playing at Michigan than LSU. And if I think I'm a stud quarterback, that would be the difference. Why would you not stay home and play at Michigan? I don't want to go down to LSU and play for Brian Kelly.
I'd rather go anywhere that they're paying me $12 million. Just saying.
people want to talk about the money. I don't think that's the biggest deciding factor. To act like LSU couldn't match that if they wanted to, I think it's absurd to think about. I think it's just being talked about because he flipped his commit. And that's what people want to jump on. Everybody's getting paid in college football right now. Let's not act like that's not the case. And let's not act like LSU couldn't come close to that figure as well. So if you're looking at LSU and they're looking like a national title contender and they could be the best team in the country and they're offering you 10 and Michigan's offering you 12, I don't think it's that big of a difference at that point. But when you look at LSU under Brian Kelly, they're going in the wrong direction. They're not streaming up. They're streaming down. And they're streaming down quickly. Again, Michigan is a year removed from a national championship, and they didn't have a quarterback. Michigan with 2 losses right now, they're in the college football playoffs. So I think there's a lot more factors there than just the idea that he's getting paid $12 million. I'm not saying that doesn't hurt by any means. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying I don't necessarily believe that's the biggest factor in the decision to jump ship. No different than Julian Lewis flipping from USC to Colorado. Look at what USC is doing right now under Lincoln Riley, and look at what Colorado's doing under Deion Sanders. Which program would you rather be playing for right now? The one that's trending down or the one that's trending up? I'm going to go play for the one that's trending up. So we talk about the NIL all we know. Nobody's talking about NIL with Julian Lewis, because if you're talking NIL, there's a very, very high likelihood that USC would outbid Colorado any day of the week. So not like Colorado's known for having a bunch of money. They're not known for having great facilities. They're not known for having a great fan base. What they are known for is having a great coach that's putting a program on the national map. You look at what Lincoln Riley's doing at USC, it's starting to look like USC is regretting the hire rather than being ecstatic about the hire. So that's what I look at it more as. Does the money help? Yeah, absolutely. But I go back to Dylan Raiola last year with Nebraska, and everybody talking and bashing the kid for flipping from Ohio State to Georgia and then Nebraska and this, that, and the other. He didn't commit to Nebraska originally because he saw the mess of the program under Scott Frost. If I was a top recruit, I wouldn't have wanted to go play there either. You look at Matt Rule, by all accounts, very stable, recruiting at a high level. Robert mentioned the flip they got from Merritt, going from Alabama to Nebraska. There is a reason people want to be at that program right now. They see a trend up. They see great facilities, a great fan base. And in Dylan Raiola's case, you're talking about a legacy from his father to him. And, you know, the idea of being able to restore a program to its glory, you can do that. You're a legend. So there's other pools there. Not to mention, Georgia was dumb enough to say, yeah, there's not going to be a competition. Carson Beck is the guy, and nobody else is going to have a chance to compete against him. He's our dude. He's starting next year. You're sitting. That's foolish of Kirby Smart. That's a bad recruiting pitch. You don't tell a recruit that's the number 1 or, by some people's standards, number 2 in the country that he's not going to get a chance to compete, and this dude's already the entrenched starter, especially not with what we've seen this year from Carson Beck. So NIL is a big deal. Money's a big deal. What you're going to pay me is a big deal. But I think people dismiss how truly competitive these kids still are. And there's a lot more that goes into a recruitment than just we're going to pay you a lot of money. There are things that true competitors want to see and they want to be able to do. And I think that's going unnoticed and marginalized in today's college football because everybody's hung up on this name, image, and likeness deal. Like people weren't getting paid under the table before.
I mean, it was happening before, for sure. Yeah. Whew. What else we got?
Let's jump to the NBA. Couple things. First off, look, this is not a homer thing. And if you listen to me enough about the Denver Nuggets, you will know I'm fairly objective when it comes to what's going on with that organization. But if you don't have Nikola Jokic as the clear-cut MVP leader right now, a month into the season, I can't trust anything you say about basketball. Plain and simple, I can't. Leading the league in I'm sorry, not leading the league. Averaging more points than MVP Shaq, or more points than MVP Kobe, more rebounds than MVP Shaq, and more assists than MVP Nash. No, that doesn't sound right. More assists.
Yeah.
Was it Nash?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Averaging a triple-double. And if you don't think he's the most valuable player, let's take it a step further. Now, this was a week ago, so I haven't been able to find the current numbers right off the top. But as of a week ago, the Nuggets' offensive rating with Jokic off the court was 86.3, an all-time NBA low. The lowest in NBA history, 86.3, the Nuggets' offensive rating without Jokic on the court. With Jokic on the court, offensive rating of 125.8, all-time NBA high, the highest rating in NBA history. So that alone, that alone proves he's the most valuable to his team. Then you look at his stats, and he's averaging a triple-double, top 3 in points, rebounds, and assists in the league.
And let's be fair. I mean, you are absolutely correct with this debate. And the people who are still trying to fight it are being dumb. They're being stubborn, right? But it's a fluid. The season's fluid, right? And last year it was the same thing. Joker came out hot. He was leading. I mean, he's even better this year, but he was leading most categories last year as well. And then, Luka got on his run. Tatum had his run. There was a run for Brunson for a little bit. Embiid for a little bit. And again, it's just like at the end of the year, you just kind of looked at it. You're like, wow. Shea as well. Shea had a great year last year as well. And they all had their moments where it's like for a stretch of time, they were just like crazy good. But then when you look at the totality of it, of the entire season, Joker really never fell off. Like the entire season. He didn't have
the likelihood of him falling off right now is slim to none, because this is what he has to do for the Nuggets to have any hope of winning.
The Nuggets are in a position right now where if they're going to win, he's putting up 30, 15 and 10 or 11 a night. Like,
check this. 4, 2, and 1.
Damn it. My internet went out again. No,
it wasn't you.
Not me this time. It's Caleb. Yes.
I don't know what
It
happened
wasn't me.
there.
Joker's really fucking awesome, if you guys didn't know.
No, Joker's
and again,
great.
Homer, whatever, he's really good. And if you're still arguing and debating it, you're just being dumb. Like even Kendrick Perkins, who is one of the biggest Joker haters, has come around to Joker.
Yeah, sorry, real quick. 4, 2, and 1. He's 4th in the league in points right now. He's 2nd in assists right now, and he's 1st in rebounds right now. What are we doing? Like, I don't understand how you can have anybody above him in the MVP conversation. I've heard people say, well, Anthony Davis. Why? Because he scores more points right now? Like, that's all he's doing better.
Well, what did Anthony Davis do the other night when the Nuggets played the Lakers?
Not great. Nuggets might not look great against anybody else in the league, but when they play the Lakers, they sure look like the top dog. Go figure that shit out.
They look amazing when if they could play the Lakers.
Doesn't make any goddamn sense.
It'd be great.
People want to talk about Jason Tatum having a nice season, but still not there. Like, just plain and simply still, and people want to be like, well, he's a better defensive player. If you're still bringing up the defensive conversation with Nikola Jokic, you ain't been paying attention to the NBA, and you're sure as shit not looking at any stats. Because his defensive rating is above average now. It's not below average. It's not average. It's slightly above average. His defensive rating is solid. If you're talking about advanced stats right now, his defensive plus minus is great. His defensive rating is really solid. So that's not even a conversation to have anymore. So there's zero reason to talk about anybody else right now. That just is what it is.
Absolutely agreed. And again, Homer, we're Nuggets fans, but
no Homer on that. That's no Homer.
I just feel like that's just facts. They're just facts. I don't think there's an argument to be had there. And most of the NBA, most of the media is agreeing with us for the most, like this year. Even I was talking to Robert while you were out. Even Kendrick Perkins is loving on the Joker right now, and he was playing the race card to get Embiid an MVP, right? So for him to come around and just be like, I'm done. Like, I can't even argue anymore.
Gilbert Arenas, who said the NBA would be better if you get rid of the foreign players, is talking about how Nikola Jokic is a god in the half-court offense right now. He cannot be stopped. So anybody who was holding whatever animosity they wanted to previously has let that go. The only dude who still wants to talk shit is Stephen A. Smith. And for whatever reason, every time he talks about Jokic, he can't talk about the greatness. He has to continuously talk about how Jokic isn't athletic. But I'll be damned, he's more athletic than Stephen A. Smith. So let's go ahead and stop it.
Let's be honest. Is it again, I enjoy it because when I watch Joker go out there and do his little spin move or his hook or just spot up and shoot in your face or all the little things that he does, a little kind of nudge and go up with the right hand or he can go up with the left. All of it looks like it's just like this normal guy doing it. And that's what I think people hate. Like, if you saw Giannis being able to do what Joker does, you'd say he's the greatest player of all time because how athletic he is. But for Joker is just one of the probably, I would say, going back to Tim Duncan, one of the best fundamental players that we've seen since Tim Duncan. Right? Every night you get the same thing, and it always looks slow. It always looks like it shouldn't work, and nobody can stop it. Nobody.
Yeah, his IQ outside of LeBron, I don't know if there's anybody in the game right now with a higher basketball IQ.
I mean, even LeBron talks about Joker's IQ. Like JJ Reddit the other night after they got stomped by the Nuggets was just like, I mean, he's really good. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, so you are watching one of the greatest basketball players to ever play the game. Plain and simple. And people want to be like, well, he wouldn't have been able to make it back in the day. He'd have been just as good back in the day because the game was slower. If you don't watch, he bangs on the low post. And if you pay attention, his body will show you how he bangs in the low post.
He would have been even better and more dominant back in the day.
There's a possibility of that.
Everybody's slower than him.
You are watching one of the best basketball players to ever play the game right now. So instead of hating on it, and I tell all the LeBron haters the same thing too, quit hating and just enjoy the greatness while it's here. We want to have a debate about who's the greatest all time, LeBron or Jordan, fine. But don't be so involved in the hate for that conversation or for what he's done off the court or whatever to ignore the greatness on the court. Appreciate it when it's in front of you because you'll have a lot more fun with the game if you do.
From a previous hater, you are absolutely correct.
Cheers, my guy. Two other, well, I'll say three. Quick hits on the NBA. The Celtics are looking like the team to beat. That loaded roster is gelling and playing really well. Jaylen Brown and Tatum are just having great seasons already. The bench is solid. Pritchard might be the sixth man of the year, and Kristaps Porzingis just came back, so they got even better.
Well, and since they got Derek White from San Antonio, he's just been playing at a different level. Like,
it's hard not to when you've got that much talent around you and you're open all the time. I mean, it just is what it is. The Celtics are loaded and they're playing great team ball. And they play defense. And why people don't make this part of the conversation when they're talking about it, the Golden State Warriors when they're on the dynastic run. When the Golden State Warriors were winning championships, they were ranked in the top 5 in the league in defensive rating. They played defense. People don't want to think about that. They don't want to talk about it. All they want to talk about is the Splash Brothers and Draymond Green being off his rocker. But they were one of the top 5 defensive teams in the league. It's part of the reason they were so good. Boston's doing the same thing right now. They're playing team ball and they're playing great defense. So right now, I don't see how anybody beats them. I do think at full strength, a really fun matchup would be Golden State Boston again, because Steph Curry is still playing at arguably an MVP level.
He's playing better this year than he did last year.
Absolutely. Buddy Hield, I think, should be in the 6th man of the year right now, but there's a good chance he could end up in the starting rotation, so that might eliminate him because he'll play too many games. Andrew Wiggins came back to playing Andrew Wiggins good basketball, unlike last year for whatever reason he wasn't. You still got Draymond Green playing at a solid complementary level. So Golden State's legit. And I told you to be aware of that at the beginning of the year, regardless of what our NBA insider said. They're great. They're playing great ball and they're playing defense again. That's part of the reason. So that could be a really fun matchup. I would still probably have Boston favored in that situation. Younger, same firepower, so on and so forth. So Boston, I would say, kind of heavy favorites right now. The other story to watch, obviously, is Cleveland. And I know we've touched on them a little bit. You guys touched on them a couple weeks ago when I was out. They've still only lost one game, and that's to Boston. They're a young team, a young core who is winning, and winning is contagious. And they are loaded with talent. So if they can stay healthy, I think they could be a dark horse to give Boston a run for their money in the East.
I'm pretty sure they had a 20-game stretch last season that they won 20.
You did say that. I didn't get a chance to check that, but there was something along those lines last year that I do remember as well.
I'll Google it. I'm pretty sure that's right.
They're coming for sure. And then I think the other big storyline is right now Philly and the mess that is. I said Paul George was a mistake for multiple reasons. Health, fit. I've said last year that they should start exploring the possibility of moving Embiid, as crazy as that sounds. I am fully on that boat at this point. I don't think he does anything for them in a win a championship contender mode. I think he does more for them if they move on from him and get pieces for it. And you build around who I think is the rookie of the year right now, McCain, and Maxey, who I think might be the best young guard in the league on any given night. So if you can move Paul George and Joel Embiid right now, and you can get solid recoupment from it, I see no reason not to.
I don't know if he's going to pay you the Godfather deal for Embiid like they would in the past, though.
Here's the thing. It's the NBA, and while as much as I agree with you on that,
nobody should do that.
What Utah got for Rudy Gobert changed everything. And so what you could get for Embiid right now, there's enough out there where it would be worth Philly's time. The problem is their GM is a fool. And I don't think truly knows how to build a championship team. And that's Daryl Morey. Were they a Chris Paul injury away from possibly beating Golden State and maybe winning a title? Sure. I'll give you that. But as a whole, the moves he's made in both Houston and in Philly have not been championship moves. They just haven't. And while Paul George is a great player, you know he's going to be injured. He's going to miss time. And even when he's on the court now, he's inconsistent in his, especially his offensive game. He could have one really good shooting night and then one really awful shooting night. So you pairing him with Maxey and Embiid, you're taking touches away from Maxey, who is a better player, and you're putting him on the court with Embiid where there's no spacing. Embiid wants to play on the outside, not the inside. Embiid doesn't pass. Paul George isn't known as a great assist guy. It doesn't work. So Philly, whether they turn this around enough to be in the playoffs or not, they're not a true contender at this point in time. And that's simply because you cannot count on Embiid and George being there enough games to make a difference. Even if they got in a 7-game series with, say, a Boston, I think they'd get blown out. So that experiment has failed miserably, and it should be over. And they should look at moving on as quickly as possible. But Morey won't do that. So, Philly fans, sorry, man. At least you got 2 great young pieces right now that you could build around for the future.
I mean, they should get rid of Embiid. You're absolutely true on that. Absolutely true.
And that's crazy because, honestly, on the court talent, dude's really good. But you want to talk about the intangibles? He might be the worst superstar leader in the league. And point in case, and I've said this before, I don't think he's a great leader. And those intangibles are part of the reason I thought Jokic should have won the MVP over Embiid. But when there's a report coming out that there was a team meeting, players only, and within that players only team meeting, your young star guard in Maxey called out Joel Embiid for not being on time for things like practice and team meetings and plane flights. And instead of coming out and refuting that story or having a conversation about, maybe owning it and being better going forward, Embiid comes out and attacks whoever made the report. Had nothing to do with saying it was true or not true. Just attacked whoever he said was the rat and put them on blast and said he'll figure it out. That's not leadership. That's not somebody you want taking over the locker room and being the guy to lead by example. That's the exact opposite of what a leader would do. So Philly's a mess. And I don't see it. I don't see a situation in which that changes at this point in time.
No doubt. All right, let's get Robert back into the conversation because he hasn't said anything in a while.
Hey man, I've not been watching any NBA, so I don't really have much to contribute in that.
I understand. NBA, once football's done, hey, Dreamweaver knows. Hey, Dreamweaver knows what's up. What's up, baby? Yeah, this is one of my favorite hats. This is my second one. My first one got dirty. I gave it to my daughter. I got a new one. Love it. Where we want to start on NFL talk? Where do we want to start?
Well, Caleb said he had some hot Broncos takes.
No. Not doing it.
You're lame. You got Pinky all riled up.
I'm not talking about just the Broncos.
Well, not just the Broncos, but you said you had some Bronco takes that would shock us, and I was all for it.
Well, I said I'd eat a little bit of crow as far as the Broncos are concerned, and that crow would be the fact that Sean Payton does have Bo Nix playing at a high level as a rookie. I still am not going to eat all the crow because I don't think and I feel like maybe I backed off a little bit from what I was talking about with you guys a couple weeks back, but the first half with Broncos and the offensive play calling is just, it's slow. It's a little bit stagnant. They just don't seem to be able to get off to a quality start in games.
Well,
they come out the second half and seem to be a different team half the time. So more power.
Well, this last game
adjustments, but
this last game they scored on all 3 possessions in the first half. Just happened to get bogged down as they got into the red zone or, got into field goal range, they got bogged down. Whatever that reason was. But
had
what
a
else
Bo
you
Nix
got?
stat, and I can't find it now. Shoot.
There's a bunch of them. Which one do you want to talk about?
It's very specific. It's after he had that yelling match with Peyton on the sideline. He's almost been on fire. It was something like 10 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's averaging like 270 yards passing. It was a crazy stat, and I can't find it now, unfortunately. But since that moment in time, Bo Nix has looked like a veteran quarterback, basically, and not a rookie. I guess is maybe the easiest way to say it in a general term sense, if you will.
I just see a guy that's back there. He's calm. He's cool. He's collected. He knows. I think he's got a pretty good grasp of the offense. He probably doesn't have the full playbook down just yet, right? He probably won't have the full playbook till year 2 and 3, but he looks like he knows what he's doing. He knows where to go with the ball. One thing that people, coming out, he doesn't throw the ball down the field. He's in the top 5 of quarterbacks with the most throws over 20 yards.
Anybody that said that did not watch his tape. They just wanted to watch the Oregon dink and dunk offense and didn't realize when they did push the ball down the field, he was accurate and he could bomb it. So he has, I won't say he could bomb it. He has an average to above average, slightly above average NFL arm. It's not like he's got a Chad Pennington arm. And that's what people were trying to make it sound like when he was coming out of college. And that's just simply not the case. Dreamweaver, great might be a slightly overstatement. They've been good. They haven't played some of the great teams. Good. When they played Baltimore, they got spanked. And the schedule, they beat the Raiders. They should have beat the Raiders. The Raiders are really bad. They've got some challenges coming up. They did play Kansas City well. I've got a Kansas City stat that I'll talk about later, though, that I think favors Kansas City in the sense that regardless of how close the game looked, it was never as close as maybe the score said it was. So I'll give that later when we talk that a little bit, the best teams in the league. They've been good, and they've been better than – that was the other crow I was going to eat, and I was going to talk about it when we talked about playoff rankings, but I'll talk about it now. I did not think there was any way the Broncos were going to get above 6 wins this year. I also didn't think the Jets were going to be as awful as they were and give the Broncos a cupcake win and things of that nature. So
we both like the Jets.
There's been some things that have bounced the Broncos' way this year that, to their credit, they've taken advantage of. The defense has played a lot better than I expected them to, and I will give all the credit in the world to Vance Joseph. He is one of the top 3 to 4 defensive coordinators in the league in my mind. Will he get another opportunity to be a head coach and get a legit opportunity? I don't know. He definitely didn't get a legit opportunity in Denver. And any Denver fan saying otherwise, I think, is just being a homer.
Let's be honest. If any new coach doesn't have a quarterback, did he really get a legit chance? Right?
So, there's that. But I think he is one of the best defensive coordinators in the league, and his play calling has been outstanding. He is doing exactly what I said the NFL is notorious for not doing, which is square peg, round hole. He's doing round hole, round peg. And he is putting his guys in positions to be successful. And that's all you can ask for of a coordinator or a coach. And he's doing it tenfold. Look at what Bonita's doing this year. So I think that's evidence right there.
He's living his best life, right? As that one Spiro Ditas said, he's living his best life. Is Vance Joseph?
So defense is playing above their potential right now. Good for them. I did not see him getting above 6 wins. I did. So between Sean Payton having Nix playing at a high level, I'm still not sold on Sean Payton long-term as the best head coach. I have said before, I do think he was the best coach for this situation to correct the mistakes that were made. I still think Peyton is a bad GM. I don't think what's happening right now has anything to do with him personally, regardless of if he drafted the players or not. I think that was much more Sean Payton than anything else. But Sean Payton has this team playing at a good high level right now, above where I expected them to be.
Robert, what do you say, buddy?
I mean, honestly, Benito's been on fire. I've loved seeing all the plays that he's been making. Just again, like we all said, 6 wins, and I mean they're on 7. They could possibly win more. We'll see, but it's been awesome to be a Broncos fan. I've been happy. It's hopeful. It's been great.
I think the Broncos are at the very least very interesting to watch right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which we haven't been able to say that in a really long time.
Nope. The defense has been looking awesome. Like Caleb was talking about, Vance Joseph has been really great with the play calling and reading offenses and really kind of stuffing them in most cases, and just kind of controlling where the ball goes. It's been great. And then again, as Caleb said, with all the stats and things with Bo Nix, I mean, dude's just been on fire every week, making right decisions. I mean, still looks like he is a novice and can use some work, but that comes with time and skill and development. So we'll see where it goes from here.
I think there's a couple things. If we had a real good running game, I think it would help a lot. I mean, our starting running back was 8 carries for -2 yards.
That's why I'm still not sold on Sean Payton as a play caller, because he's still running 3 backs out there. He's got this. He's always had it too. He's got this idea that more running backs, the better. And Javonte Williams has had games this year where he looked like him old self, where he looked like a true RB1 that should be getting the majority of the touches. Then he's had other games where he hasn't. Is that just because that's what he is now after the injury? Or is it because sometimes if your running back doesn't get touches early, they don't get a rhythm for the game, and then they just look off all game because you're running guys in and out? I can't decide that yet, so I don't truly know.
I'm not a huge fan of the hot hand approach, which is what they're doing at the moment. But I don't think they give the ball to any guy enough to see if he's got a hot hand. Like you gotta call good plays, good run. You gotta have good run blocking. We definitely didn't have good run blocking this week.
It's like you call a play and the dude gets a yard or a negative yard, and you're like, well, you're out for the next 5, and we're gonna run somebody else in there. Could you imagine if Philly or Baltimore did that to Derrick Henry or Saquon? Oh, they tackled you in the backfield. You're out. You're done. Go sit on the bench for a while. We're going to bring somebody else in now. Like, you don't do that if you believe one of your guys is the one. If you truly believe Javonte Williams is the number 1 running back, then he should be getting 20 touches a game at a minimum.
Broncos starting running back is in the 2025 draft. Let's just say that.
Oh, man. You better hope they fall correctly then, because like I said earlier, there's some studs in there that I believe are coming out this year.
There's quite a few good guys. I'd say Genty's probably the only guy that you take first round. Everybody else is going to be – I would say you're going to get 10 running backs between the 2nd and 3rd round. Like, they're going to go quick. But, again, so let's touch on, kind of the Rookie of the Year conversation, which is what our tagline was.
That's where I was going to go next. I think, personally, after last weekend, Bo Nix has taken the ever slightest edge. I'm talking like plus 105 for Nix and plus 110 for Daniel.
And see, I don't see it that way. I've watched the last 3 Jayden Daniels games, and I can't pinpoint it, but it doesn't look good right now. And I think it could be a lot to do with the
award, right? So Nix looked bad to start maybe the first 3 or 4 games, and Daniels came out on fire. So if he has a little bit of a lull in the middle of the season, you can't all of a sudden say it's a landslide now for Nix. He still leads yards and touchdowns.
Not by much. Actually, Nix has more touchdowns than everybody.
Passing, not overall, I believe.
Daniels
still has overall touchdowns.
No, Nix has more overall touchdowns.
I wish I had these stats.
I know a guy who knows Google really well named Robert who could probably pull that up for us.
I'm pulling it.
I've seen the stats. Nix has more.
Yeah, even Hannah says Nix has more because she saw it on Good Morning Football.
I swear it's passing. Hang on.
Yes, Nix is currently leading rookie quarterbacks in total touchdowns.
What's the count?
Believe it's 12. Let me
Can't be 12. He's got like
Hang on.
20.
24. Maybe, yeah.
No, he doesn't have 24.
Hang on.
You're better than this, Robert.
There's a few different articles here.
I mean, I could have looked it up
It says
faster
six
than that.
regular seasons. It says 16th. He has 16 TDs. And that is from ESPN.
Let's see here. 12 to 16 passing, 5 to 4. Okay, he's got him by 1. Oh, 3. Sorry. 3 after this last weekend.
Is that counting as receiving touchdown too? I think that counts.
Total touchdowns in the NFL is 21.
Yeah.
21 touchdowns from Bo Nix total.
Right.
Jayden Daniels has 12.
Jayden Daniels has 12.
No, Jayden Daniels is 17.
17. You're wrong.
Well, it says 12 total touchdowns in 2024.
Yeah, those are passing. I just pulled up the stats. But I appreciate the assist, Hannah. Daniels has 1 less interception. He's got roughly 70 more passing yards. He's got a higher completion percentage by 4 points.
12 touchdowns and 5 interceptions.
Alex Daniels has been hurt, but he has not missed any games.
Daniels has 500 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns to Nix's 300 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns. So, again, that's why I said it's a close race. That's why I've got Nix just by a slight edge after this last weekend.
I'm still saying, at least from the eye test, the last 3 weeks have not been great for Jayden. And it's the team around him as well. They're not running the football. Besides the 86-yarder to McLaurin, he could not get McLaurin the ball. And I maybe this Cliff Kingsbury second half failure thing is a real thing. If you look at all of his teams he's ever been a part of, the second half of the season, he is awful.
Well, Dan Orlovsky came out on ESPN Monday and said basically he believes that's because Kingsbury's offense has been running almost the same 4 plays over and over again, and defenses have caught on. And they're running basically the exact same concepts over and over again, and it's time to expand the playbook. And Sean Payton has expanded the playbook exponentially for Bo Nix, and that's part of the reason you've seen the continued growth, if you will. Now, Pink, you did bring it up. Jayden Daniels, there is reports that he's got an injury on his throwing hand. You know, you got an injury on your throwing hand as a quarterback, that's gonna cause some issues.
Absolutely.
Regardless of the severity, it's going to cause some issues. So, numbers wise, they're honestly fairly even. But as Pinky said, what you've seen the last 3 weeks from Daniels and what you've seen the last three games from Nix, they're kind of going opposite directions, and I believe that's why Nix does have the slight edge. But that's why I do believe it's a slight edge, because it is a season-long award. So you want to talk about Jayden Daniels having 3 bad games last week? Well, Nix had 3 bad games to start the season. So take that out.
Well,
like I said, you want to do Nix at 105 and Daniels at 110? I'm good with that.
It's very close right now. If the trend continues, it won't be close by the end of the year.
No, absolutely not. But I don't expect that trend to continue. I don't. And part of the reason for that might be because what I saw last year in college, and I know Pinky dismisses that all the time, but Nix had a great season last year in Oregon, a phenomenal season, led a lot of different categories, but Daniels was the Heisman winner. and for a very good reason. His season that he had was insane. And you could argue he did it with less talent around him than what Nix did up in Oregon. So it's a season-long award for a reason, and I expect it to continue to be neck and neck.
Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas, two of the best wide receivers in the league on Jayden Daniels' squad.
I'm talking overall team and concept. You're talking Dan Lanning versus Brian Kelly. You're talking offensive lines. You're talking play calling. You can have two great wide receivers, but if you don't have a great offensive line to protect the quarterback, that doesn't mean a whole lot if you can't have time to get him the ball. So, I think Troy Franklin was arguably just as good as Neighbors and Thomas last year in college. Why he's not getting touches with the Broncos is still mind-boggling to me. I don't understand that. I expected that to be, by this point in the season, I expected that to be something we were talking about in a positive light, not a negative light. So, the positive is the fact that Sutton is looking like a true number one again, which I love seeing because I believe that was always his talent level. But obviously the knee injury and coming back from that and the amount of changes within the offensive scheme and system and things of that nature was tough. I've said before, and I still stand by it, and I think it's even more pertinent now. Broncos have talent, especially at cornerback on the defensive side of the ball in the secondary. The amount you could get for trading a Surtain, for trading a Sutton, and developing on rookie deals around this rookie quarterback could be crazy good. Now, you're trading known commodities, arguably the best cornerback in the league, for unknowns. So there's risk to that. I wouldn't deny that. I don't back away from that sentiment at this point, but I will say based on the way Nix is playing and the overachieving that the Broncos are doing up to this point of the season, definitely takes away from any thought of doing that at this point in time.
Yeah, I can't even touch that conversation with you, my man. I'm not going to do it. I will say, with what Jayden Daniels and Bo Nix have done, it kind of sucks. I feel like Brock Bowers would definitely be – he's going to be in the top 3 when we go to NFL honors, but I don't think he'll be really in the conversation just because quarterbacks will probably win the award. But he's having a really good season for what we consider tight ends.
Up until last week. So, he had first 10 weeks of the season. What does he do the second half of the season?
Well, Broncos put Surtain on him, and he's the only guy the Raiders really
I'm just saying, he could easily fall off the second half of the season because tight end is a very dependent position.
Well, he also has Aiden O'Connell and possibly Desmond Ridder throwing him the ball going forward, so that definitely doesn't help for sure. Since Gardner Minshew broke his collarbone and he's out.
I will also say to a lesser extent, and I don't think he's a true candidate at this point in time, but if Caleb Williams finishes the season the way he's played these last couple of weeks, he will be in the conversation.
Oh, I think if he can continue playing the last 2 weeks, he's played much better with the new offensive coordinator. It hasn't resulted in wins, but his play has not been the reason they've lost.
Absolutely.
Where previously it was really weird because Rich Eisen's talked about it quite a bit. And he's like, I was in London, man. I saw the 4-touchdown game against the Jaguars. He lit it up. He's like, I don't know what happened from that game on.
Yeah.
But after that game, they forgot how to play football. And he couldn't get the ball. And he's like, you've got Odunze and Allen and DJ Moore, and you can't get them the football? There was no scheming to get them the ball. It was bad. It was really bad. I will
say, coinciding with what happened the last couple of weeks has been the reemergence of DJ Moore, which means Chicago realized who their best wide receiver was, and Caleb Williams did, and they're actually getting him the ball. When you get your best players the ball, good things usually happen. I'm still amazed that Kmet isn't involved in the offense. I still think he's a really good young tight end. Usually that's a young quarterback's best friend. So why there's such an inconsistency for him to see touches is still weird. And then the fact that they don't have a run game doesn't help either. or an offensive line. So
I think Caleb's always trying to get the big play to his other wide receivers versus kind of letting the game come to him.
There was a lot of that to start the season. I think these last couple of weeks, you've seen him take the play call as it's designed more so than trying to run around in the pocket a lot. Not that he hasn't still done some of that, but, that's also a level of growth in the NFL too. This isn't college where you're better than 99% of the dudes on the field. No matter how good you are in the NFL, there's always somebody on the other side of the field that's just as good as you. I mean, that's kind of the nature of the beast at this point in time. So learning that you kind of have to take plays as they're given to you is one of those maturity growth factors that a lot of rookie QBs have to go through.
If you look at the Bears' schedule down the stretch, I don't know if there's another win on their schedule.
Well, and kind of similar, with the Broncos. If I remember correctly,
they've got two. They've got two coming up.
The hardest strength of schedule remaining in the second half of the season, I thought I saw.
No. Not the Broncos. The Broncos play the Browns, and then they play the Colts, who both have losing records. Then they play the Chargers. Then they play the Bengals, who currently have a losing record. Then they play the Chiefs. So it's not the Broncos.
They're currently 12th. 12th is what it is now. 518. So when I saw that, it was a couple weeks ago. It was like 539. Now Chicago, with everything that's happened in the last couple of weeks. I forget I haven't been on with you guys for a couple weeks. My bad. Chicago is now the highest at 727. They got to play the Lions twice, Green Bay, Minnesota, Seattle, and San Francisco. That's brutal.
That's brutal. Like, I don't know if they get another win. So if he plays well but loses, I think he'll get himself into the conversation.
I mean, if we're being honest, though, with the Broncos, Kansas City, Chargers.
Kansas City's resting. We got the best deal ever. Kansas City will be resting their starters that last week because they're not going for the undefeated season.
Possibly. So. But you say that, and playoff seeding is still going to be an implication.
It might not be. Again, if they don't lose another game, then that won't be an issue.
But if they lose that last week, it could lose the number one seed. So that don't count on that just yet. We'll see what happens there. But they still got to play the Chargers, the Bengals, the Browns, and the Colts. Out of all those games, the Colts the only game I would say they'd be favored in.
They're favored against the Browns.
Ooh, really?
Against like a 4-8 team? Yeah, they're favored against the Browns. At home? I'd be surprised if it's not 6.5. I haven't looked this week, but I'd be shocked if they're not 6.5 point favorites. They won a game against a division opponent, which is great. They've won. They beat the Ravens, who's a division opponent. But against everybody else, they haven't really played great. So
played pretty good against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I said division opponent. I just said that.
Just saying, the Browns.
Those are the two games they've played.
It's not like the Browns are some kind of pushover team. That
didn't say they were.
Just expect to win.
They're 5.5 point dogs.
Ooh, that's a big line. That's a big line, especially against that defense. Whew. Okay. All right. Fair. I
mean, that defense isn't what we thought they were to begin the season. We thought that defense would be a lot better than what it has been this year. It's not bad, but it's not what we thought they would be. It's not what they were last season. They were arguably the number one defense last season. They're not playing at that level. Again, is it a game you could lose? Absolutely. The Colts game is a game you could lose. But the Broncos will be favored in both of those games.
The Colts game is the only game I would say it should be a win. The rest of them, I would say, who knows? I mean, if Cleveland comes out and gets superstar Jameis Winston, that's going to be a really brutal game for the Broncos. Now, if they get Crab Daddy Jameis Winston, they should smoke the Browns. because the defense should be continuously putting the offense in positions of great field position. And Bo Nix that's the one thing about Bo Nix that's great. He doesn't have an ego. He's more than happy to dink and dunk and just meticulate the ball down the field and kick a bunch of field goals and win. Similar to what Pittsburgh did against Cleveland. So, possibilities, sure. But that's, yeah, Broncos got to keep playing really good ball, mistake-free, to make sure that those wins get counted.
They do, but, I mean, you're also putting a lot on a 3-8 football team.
I mean, that's like saying record doesn't always tell you the full story. I think the Browns are better than 3-8 overall. They just look, if they had put Jameis Winston in earlier in the season instead of Deshaun Watson, they would be closer to 500 than what they are now. Would you not agree with that?
That's probably true. I still don't believe in Crab Daddy. I just don't.
I'm not saying he's leading them to the playoffs, but he's leading them to a 500 season, which is, what they should be hovering around given their offensive struggles. You look at you look at Indy. Indy doesn't look like a good football team on either side of the ball. So I expect them to win that game. You look at Cincinnati, you look at their record and you go, oh, not a good football team. You go back and watch the games. You look at the stats. They've got the best quarterback in the league right now by stats. They've got the best wide receiver in the league right now by stats. And they got the best defensive player right now by stats.
If Cincinnati loses another game or two, I don't think they're going to be putting up the fight that they normally would. If they're out of it, they're not going to put up that fight.
So, but that's a really good team where the record doesn't say they're a really good team for whatever reason. So, it would not surprise me if the only game the Broncos win on that schedule is Indianapolis. It also wouldn't surprise me if they steal one from if they steal one from LA, because LA's shown some inconsistencies. If they win the Browns game and the Bengals game, I wouldn't be surprised either way. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I could see the Broncos only winning one more game. I could see them winning 3 or 4 more games.
I got them beating the Browns at home, and then they're going to beat the Colts, and then they've got to win one of those last 3. Which I've got them beating the Chiefs the last game of the season, because the Chiefs will sit, because I think they'll have as long as they have the number 1 seed lined up, they will sit.
I don't think there's any way they have it locked up by that last week, because Buffalo's not. I don't see Buffalo giving up those games. So I think that game's going to matter.
It might. We'll see. We shall see. So,
how about moving on to Kansas City real quick? I got a couple stats for you guys that I found really interesting. Right now, where'd it go? Kansas City, 7 of their last 8 playoff wins have been decided by 1 score.
Right.
7 of their last 8 playoff wins have been decided by 1 score, which means both Super Bowls.
All 3 of their Super Bowls have been decided by 1
I'm just talking about the last 2 because they're going for a 3-peat, okay? This year, at 10-1, they have the lowest point differential by a winning team at 52 points a game. And they have won 8 of their games within 7 points.
Right.
Now, the reason I find that so interesting, and I'm not just, don't even think about the whole dominance thing. I'm not going back down that path, okay? What I am saying, though, is we all agree that winning is an inherited, learned trait, right? And when you have learned how to win the close games, I think that's something that truly matters, and I think it is something that is learned. And once you've learned that you can win the close games, you have this certain level of confidence that teams that have not done it on a consistent basis do not have. So the fact that Kansas City isn't winning games big this year isn't something that I would be concerned about as a Kansas City fan based on the history of those numbers, which I did not realize they had done the playoff games that way. Going back and thinking about it, yes. But just when the stat was shown originally, I was like, damn, that's kind of crazy. And then they're doing it for the regular season. The last team to do that in the regular season on the same level, I believe, I can't remember which it was 05 or 07, but it was the Patriots team that won back-to-back Super Bowls.
Right.
So there is a level of inherent learned ways to win that once you have that level of confidence goes a long way to continuing to be able to do that where other teams don't. They don't get scared. They don't freeze up in those moments like others might. So I think that's something to keep an eye on as the season progresses with Kansas City.
Their ability to win the close games, to come back. They're usually down 10 points in a lot of games. They come back and win. They know how to win games. There occasionally can be some help from the guys in the zebra stripes occasionally. But overall, what happens for most teams is, look, man, like it's been there. It's been there. And there's a lot of questionable calls. And if it wasn't that questionable, it wouldn't be a thing. But it is.
I would venture to guess if you went and did all the research, you would find the same level of questionable calls in almost every NFL game. It just
I still come back
because
to
the Chiefs are winning.
Most of the teams that play the Chiefs make a mistake at a point in the game that causes the Chiefs to get back into it. But you've got to play because that team knows how to win, because that team knows how to come back. You have to play your A game all game. You have to play 60 minutes. You can't play 45. You can't play 55. You got to play all 60.
You can't play 59 minutes and 53 seconds, a la Buffalo.
Right.
Here's what I will say about the Chiefs that is a level of concern for me right now. What we had talked about is maybe the best defense in the league up through the first maybe 7 weeks of the season. These last couple of weeks, that defense has looked not just vulnerable, but exposed. And that
I was talking to Andy.
That should be a level of concern.
I was talking to Andy about that, and what I've been noticing, Chris Jones is not getting pressure. And their defense really starts from the pressure he generates, which allows the other guys around him to make plays.
Karlaftis, too. I mean, that guy was getting pressure early in the season, and he's not the same anymore either.
But all of his pressure is hustle pressure. He doesn't, just beat the guy. It's all hustle. It's easier to hustle and make that play when Chris Jones is forcing the guy to move out of the pocket, right? So Chris Jones really hasn't been getting pressure the last few games. He might be taking it a little easy. He always turns it on in the playoffs, so I'm not really concerned about that. But I feel like that's a little bit of why you've seen the defense take a little bit of a step back from what they've been doing.
Absolutely. But again, that's why I kind of go back to that week 18 matchup against the Broncos, I think is going to mean something. Because I just don't feel like they're going to have that 1 seed locked up yet at that point in time.
Robert, can you pull up the Chiefs schedule real quick?
Yep.
Let's see who they finish up with, because I know they play the Chargers again.
So they play the Raiders on this coming Friday. Then they play the Chiefs, or they play the Chargers. Then the Browns.
That's a tough game. The Browns game's a dub.
Texans
game's a dub the way they're playing.
Steelers. Broncos.
Steelers on Christmas. That's an interesting matchup.
And then Broncos, of course.
Steelers and then Broncos is the finish out. I mean, the Chargers game's the game. They lose that Chargers game, then I agree with you, Caleb. If they win that Chargers game, I do think they're beating the Steelers on Christmas. They'll come into the Broncos at 15-1.
Robert, pull up the Bills schedule for me, if you don't mind, good sir.
That's why we have a nerd on the show.
49ers, Rams, Lions,
Dub.
Patriots,
Dub.
Jets, Patriots.
Dub. So that Lions game's the one for the Bills. If the Bills lose that Lions game, they will have 3 losses. If the Chiefs lose the Chargers, they'll have 2 losses. So yes, that last game of the season will matter. But if they don't, if the Chiefs still have one loss.
Keep in mind, if the Bills and Chiefs finish with the same record, Bills own that tiebreaker.
They do. Rock chalk. Let's go.
They just win?
Yes.
What was the final score?
75-72.
It's about what I expected right now. Duke's playing 3 freshmen in their starting lineup right now. So early season struggles should be expected.
Pretty
so
close
only lose
game
to
down the
Kansas,
stretch.
who is a veteran-laden team, this early in the season by 3. It's going to be interesting.
I hate Duke, so rock chalk, baby. Let's go.
Now I got to look up something.
I hate Duke, and I hate the Tar Heels. F them.
Fair enough.
That last one was for you, Caleb.
I mean, I'm a Tar Heels fan, but it's kind of fake in a lot of people's minds because I only picked them because I didn't know Nebraska didn't. I didn't know Nebraska had a basketball team growing up. Otherwise, I probably would have just been a Nebraska fan.
I mean, you can root for your Tar Heels this year, though. They're 4-1. They're the 12th
I mean, I'm a Tar Heels fan. I'm always going to root for them. I'm not expecting big things from them this year. So I don't think they're going to be in the same conversation necessarily. I got a blind resume for you here, fellas. Because I think this is super interesting. I want to see what you guys think here.
Oh, God.
Player A. Okay? Player A.
Oh, my God. Who just signed with the Dodgers?
Soto?
No.
Blake Snell.
Blake Snell.
Okay. Okay. All right.
5-year deal.
All right. I mean, okay. Okay. All right. Blind resume time. I wish I could put this on a graph, and I apologize. I am technology illiterate, ladies and gentlemen listening to us. So I hope you can kind of follow along here.
Facts.
Look, it is what it is. Player A, I'll try to give you just high level stuff. Player A, player B. Player A, 2,800 total yards. Player B, 2,900 total yards. Player A, 20 total touchdowns. Player B, 22 total touchdowns. Player A, 58 QBR. Player B, 59 QBR.
Sounds like I'm going with player B.
Player A, first in yards after completion. Player B, 29th in yards after completion. Could you guess who these 2 quarterbacks are?
I don't know the QBR stat as well as I should.
It's an underrated stat, I feel like, in all honesty. But if you had to take a guess, who would you think these 2 quarterbacks are?
I'm going to go with one is Josh Allen.
No.
Okay.
No, think you got a guess on who one of these is?
I think they're Jayden Daniels and Bo Nix.
No, I would have brought that up when we were playing the rookie of the year conversation.
I mean, 2,800 yards and 2,900 yards, not a whole lot.
They play in the same division.
Okay.
NFC.
Jared Goff.
Yes. Player A.
Sam Darnold.
Yes. Player B.
I hate Sam Darnold because he hates Justin Jefferson, so I'm going to go with Jared Goff every day of the week.
Does he,
Why
though?
does he hate Justin Jefferson?
He does hate Justin Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson just came out this weekend and said, either I eat or everybody else gets to eat. I prefer everybody else gets to eat.
Yeah, well, my fantasy team does not agree with that
that's fine.
philosophy.
Who would you say has more weapons?
I mean, technically, I'd say it's close because you could argue Jefferson and Amon-Ra. You could argue Laporta and Hawkinson.
Hawkinson hasn't been playing up until last week, right?
Right, but he's back now.
Okay.
You could say Aaron Jones for Montgomery. I don't think the Vikings have anybody for Gibbs. But I think Addison is maybe slightly better than Jameson Williams right now. So I think it's a push, really.
That's what I was hoping you would say. So we got a push. So all things considered, I would say offensive play calling, O'Connell and Ben Johnson equal as well, right? For the most part.
Right.
So all things considered, we're saying this is fairly even with surrounding issues surrounding.
What question are you getting to, Caleb? You haven't
I'm not getting to a question. Yet. I'm just saying I think where I'm going with this is I feel like people have been still bashing on Darnold and forgetting that Minnesota is 8-2, 9-2, and one of those losses is a very close loss to Detroit. I think people are sleeping on Minnesota right now.
They're not front and center at the moment.
Nope.
They had their moment. They lost to the Lions, and then they lost to someone else, and it kind of took them out of the media spotlight, which I think they like that right now.
Hey.
No one's talking about them right now, right? They don't have that pressure.
Mm-hmm.
The Lions have that pressure right now. Like the Lions right now are considered the best team in the NFL, right?
Let's go.
My point being, though, how accurate is that? And if it is so, is the gap as big as maybe the media is trying to project it to be at this point in time?
I'll say this. I'll say this. Like, you're making good points, Caleb, but like the Lions are putting up 50 burgers on a lot of people. And I don't see the Vikings doing that. The Vikings winning games, yes. Literally destroying people, stealing their souls, and putting up 50 burgers.
Having
they are
OTs,
not doing.
Take passes and stuff.
Right.
All things considered, we're saying offenses are equal. Who's the better defense?
Oof. At full health,
I mean,
the Lions.
No, the Vikings have the better, and they have the better defensive coordinator. Flores does some really crazy special stuff with the guys. I think maybe you could argue that the talent on Lions defense is probably on paper more talented, maybe, but the scheme and how he's using the players, Flores is on another level. Like I'll be shocked if Flores doesn't get some phone calls for some job opportunities. Because like what he's doing is pretty damn good.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Lions have prevented a touchdown from being scored the last 8 quarters, if not more.
Who have they been playing?
I mean, still though.
I mean, there's a little bit to be said about who you're playing. Again, Robert, there's
still something to be said, but that's still a pretty good feat.
The margins are razor thin, but in this case, the Vikings would have the edge when it comes to the defense.
So where I'm going with this is what I've heard over the last couple of weeks is Detroit is the best team in the league. It's not even close. They've been blowing people out. I'm not seeing it that way. I'm seeing, in all honesty, and I'm not trying to give a hot take here, I brought those points up for the exact reason that Minnesota lost a close game to Detroit the first time they played. Now, they still got to play again, so we can see what happens. But as of right now, based on the way Philly's been playing the last couple of weeks and the way Minnesota's been playing, Minnesota, Detroit, and Philly, I think are all neck and neck right now as far as best team in the NFC. And if I'm being honest, I don't think Detroit will want to see either one of those teams if they can help it.
Well, they're going to have to. But
I know. I'm just saying, grand scheme of things, if there was a way for them to avoid that, they would want to.
There's a conversation to be had, Caleb. But at the end of the day, you still got to rank them. I'm still ranking Detroit, who beat the Vikings, over the Vikings right now.
I got nothing against that.
Again, I've seen enough of the Eagles have shitty games that I would still take the Lions over the Eagles too. Could you have the conversation? Sure. The conversation's probably closer for the Lions and Vikings than it is Lions and Eagles. I still think the Lions are a much better team than the Eagles, but because I've seen some. If Barkley's not rolling, and you cover AJ Brown, the Eagles have no answer.
Yeah, but they've had. I mean, Brown's missed time. Devontae Smith has missed time. Goddard's missed time.
I'm just saying that's what they've had to deal with, and again, it hasn't been pretty. Full strength.
The thing that scares me the most about the Eagles right now is I think out of those three, they're the best defense, and I think they're figuring it out over the last couple of weeks that all that talent is starting to play. The interesting part about that, though, Brandon Graham going down with a torn tricep and being out the rest of the year, that is going to be very interesting to keep an eye on to see if this defense can maintain or continue to improve, or if they're going to take a step back, because that's a big piece lost on that defensive line.
I would possibly argue back on that. Eagles, the defense has played better, but if you look at the teams they've played, they played the Browns, which are not world beaters on offense. They've played the Giants. They did hold the Bengals down, which was impressive. They gave up more points to the Jaguars than they gave to the Bengals.
They did.
Right? Then they played the Cowboys, which was like Cooper Rush could do nothing in that game at all. Then they played the Commanders. Then they played the Rams. They're playing better defensively, but I don't think they're world beaters right now. They haven't played – like they play the Ravens this weekend. After the Ravens game, we'll have a better idea.
It's going to be interesting. Now, I'm not trying to say it's the best defense. What I meant by the best defense out of those three is I think on paper we could say that's the best defense based on the names and the talent that they have.
I've seen the Lions and Vikings play better offensive opponents and actually hold them to less points. I'm talking about
on paper, the names on paper.
That paper don't matter.
Just hear me out, dude. On paper, that defense was supposed to be insanely good this year. Everybody expected it based on the names. They haven't lived up to those expectations. What I think is scary, though, is I feel like those names on paper and those expectations that they haven't been living up to, I feel like they're starting to figure it out. And if that trend continues by the end of the season, I look at that as being a scary defense. I don't know if I can necessarily say the same for Detroit. And Minnesota, I think we would agree, has been playing above the names on paper, like you said, due to the defensive coordinator and Brian Flores. So can that continue? So there's a lot of, I think all three teams have a lot of question marks on the defensive side of the ball. What I'm trying to say is I see more upward trajectory for the Eagles than I do the other two at this current point in time.
We will see how that holds, because I do
next
think
week we'll say a lot for sure.
I mean, the Eagles play the Ravens, then they play the Panthers, then they play the Steelers, Commanders, Cowboys, Giants.
It's a nice schedule to finish the season.
Yeah, not world beaters. I'll say this. Look, the way that they've been playing, they've played better. And I think all three of those teams, they're going to match up in the playoffs.
One of those teams is going to have to play the other, at least one.
And I wouldn't put money on either one. I wouldn't be confident in saying, "Ooh, that they're definitely going to win." I wouldn't do that. They're good teams, and that's what happens. When good teams play in the playoffs, sometimes the best overall team doesn't win. The best team on that day wins. Oh,
that's one of the beauties of the NFL, right? That's one of the things that the NFL has created such a wonderful. What's the word I'm looking for? Why am I drawing a blank?
Parity.
Thank you, Pinky. They've done the best job of any professional sports league in creating parity within the parameters.
I just got to throw this. I didn't realize this because I was just watching on Bleacher Report. Fun fact, Hunter Dickinson was hit with a flagrant 2 foul and ejected with 10 minutes left in the game.
Dang.
If you'd have told me that, I would have said Kansas is definitely losing that game.
Agreed.
So the fact that they won that game playing without him for 10 minutes.
It's a good win for Kansas. Good win for Kansas. Last thing I'll bring to everybody's attention. Let me throw this out there. I'll try to do it quickly, and then you guys take the floor and run with it how you see fit. Right now, as it stands, and we do this week to week, right? This is just what we do because it's more fun to have the conversation that way instead of projecting season long. Lamar Jackson is the runaway MVP right now. And this is why I say it. First in passer rating, tied for first in pass touchdowns, first in pass yards, first in rush yards, first in total touchdowns, first in total yards among all QBs, and he's only thrown 3 interceptions on the year. It's over. It's over. Lamar Jackson is the MVP. Now, that being said, I will make a case for 2 other guys. One, Josh Allen. He is doing more with less than any other quarterback out there that's in the running to be MVP. He's only had Amari Cooper for a couple games, and Amari Cooper, you could argue, may not even be a top 10 wide receiver in the league anymore. He's doing it with a running back who may not even be considered a top 10 running back in the league. And then a bunch of ancillary pieces. It is Josh Allen doing work. So, is he in the running? Absolutely. I think Josh Allen is playing phenomenal football. He has not been turning the ball over. He is the reason Buffalo is where they're at. The other guy I will make a case for is Saquon Barkley. He is on pace to break Eric Dickerson's single-season record. And he's going to have a bunch of receiving yards, touchdowns, and the like. Without Saquon Barkley, that offense in Philly is not humming the way it's humming right now. Very much so an MVP candidate. But Lamar Jackson is a quarterback who is playing quarterback at the highest level in the league right now, leading a team to victory. Can you argue Derrick Henry is assisting in that? Absolutely. I'm not going to take that away. But when you're leading the league in all of those categories, you are putting in work and you are putting yourself above the other quarterbacks in the league. Please take it away, my good friends.
I mean, I don't have any disagreement with that at all. I mean, that's why, you all gave me such a hard time for it at the beginning of the season when we were drafting keepers, and I'm like, I'm keeping Lamar over Hall. And
hold on. That's just because you could have drafted Lamar in the second or third and still had Breece Hall in the 7th.
I mean,
that was the argument.
I mean, but it didn't work out either way.
With you keeping Lamar, it was the areas at which you're keeping him and the draft availabilities and all the other things that go into play on that.
But
like your team, if you take your first round pick, your second round pick, you draft Lamar in the 3rd, which is where you lost your draft pick anyways, and then you still have Breece Hall on your team because you got him in the 7th, your team is better. That's all we're saying.
If you say so.
So, how much better, we don't know. Breece Hall has great weeks, and then he has some bum weeks, so you never know.
Exactly.
He's still a top 10 running back, I think, fantasy points-wise. So
I was just going to look that up, so continue.
Look, you're not wrong, Caleb, because, again, DraftKings has the top 3 MVPs. Josh Allen's plus 150. Lamar's plus 250. And Saquon is plus 475. So
I hadn't even looked at that. So solid that good old DraftKings agrees with me right now.
Well, technically, they have Josh Allen as MVP.
Oh, well,
because he's
I think
plus
that's
150.
My bad, I missed that. That's ridiculous, I think, in my mind. But that they're only doing that because of record. Then
I think some of that has to go with like
Brees Hall is
has
the 8th running back in the league right now. Just side note.
Lamar has Derrick Henry, who's run for 1,300 yards and 12 or 15 touchdowns.
And like I said, that's why there's a legit argument for Josh Allen because he's doing more with less, if you will.
So I would, and we know this because again we have this conversation with Joker, right? Lamar's already got 2 MVPs. A lot of times after somebody's already won a couple MVPs, they kind of want to give it to somebody else, unless they just look and they're like, we can't do it. Lamar is going to finish the season with their schedule is actually pretty tough down the stretch.
Yeah.
So if he continues having these games, probably going to be undeniable.
I mean, let's be honest. What he did they play the Monday night game? Was that last night?
They played last night, yeah.
Yeah.
Against the Chargers.
What he did last night against the Chargers was what do you mean?
I mean, most of that was Derrick Henry going for 140. He put him in position for everything they got. Lamar did make some great throws. That throw to Bateman was in the bucket. Like, super, I'm surprised Bateman caught it. That's how great the throw was. Like, Bateman's
this
not
is
known
where I'm
to
going,
make those
Pinky.
catches.
What is the I feel like the ultimate compliment you can pay a quarterback, in my mind, is being able to play complementary football. And when he can take advantage of what Derrick Henry's doing in the run game, I mean, that just makes your offense exponentially better, right?
I would possibly argue that Lamar's gone another level because they are 3rd and 2. They are 2nd and 4 a lot. They're not playing behind.
Sure. And that's always going to be a good thing. But when you take advantage of those opportunities the way he has, right? It's a big deal.
Lamar, I think the stats bear it out. Lamar, 3rd and 7 is not great.
But again, passer rating, passing yards, passing touchdowns, interceptions, leading the league in those categories.
Again,
taking advantage of the opportunities presented to you is something that not all guys have the capability of doing.
When you have a running back that's going for 1,300 yards, he's going to put you in a lot of good positions. Defenses can't focus on Lamar like they used to. They can't just sit there and spy him and kind of play games like they were. They have to play more straight up, which allows him to be more dangerous throwing the ball than he has been in the past. And
Jalen Hurts isn't doing the same thing in Philly with arguably a better running back.
He's not. I don't know if I mean,
I said arguably. I didn't say he is. I said arguably.
They're on the same.
We know I love King Henry, and I'm amazed more people didn't go after him. So don't come at me, people. Don't at me. Okay, that's not what that was for.
I mean, he turned 30. That's the reason more people didn't go after him.
Which is stupid because they obviously didn't look at the dude. The dude said, "I'm not 30, regardless of what my age tells you."
The guy is literally a mutant. Like, he's a mutant.
Every once and again, somebody comes along that breaks the trend, right? If you didn't think Derrick Henry was that dude, I feel sorry for you.
That's fair.
So I think it's those 3 guys in the MVP race right now. And honestly, based on where we're at in the season right now, I don't think anybody's close to those 3 guys. I think those 3 have put themselves in a serious separation from the field. And now it's just a matter of how those 3 guys finish and what happens.
All right, let's finish it up.
All right. Well, Pinky, what are your last thoughts, sir?
I got something coming from work that's got me pissed off right now, so I don't have any final words.
Okay. Caleb, what are your final thoughts, sir?
Man, it's good to be back. I got so much more I wanted to say, but I wanted to keep it relevant and current to now and not try to backtrack to the past. So
fair enough.
I missed you fellas. I appreciate you holding it down the last couple of weeks, and I'm feeling good that I got to jump back on today. Robert?
Awesome. Get to the Penguin, finished it. That's great. Arcane has also been 10 out of 10. I've recommended that before as well. Skeleton Crew next week. Let's get it. Hoping that is going to pay off and be a great Star Wars series to close out the year for shows. So that's really what I got.
We'll have spoiler-free takes on that when those first couple episodes drop. So we'll Robert and I are both stoked. Looking forward to it. We're getting together to watch the first 2 episodes together. So that'll be phenomenal. As always, everybody that supports us in any way, we, as cliche as it will always sound, we cannot thank you enough. It truly does mean the world to us. Thank you. And when you have those moments with your inner circle, family, friends, loved ones, whoever you consider that to be, do not pass them up. Do not take them for granted. Cherish them and take advantage of them at every turn and opportunity. Until next week, fellas, I love you. Appreciate you.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
We're out. Peace.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down 'cause